Hello, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Virtual Coffee Podcast. I'm Bekah, and this is a podcast that features members of the Virtual Coffee community. Virtual Coffee is an intimate group of developers at all stages of their coding journey, and they're here on this podcast sharing their stories and what they've learned. And we're here to share it with you. Here with me today is my co-host, Dan.
Thanks, Bekah. Today we're talking with Ayu Adiati. Ayu is originally from Indonesia and now based in the Netherlands. She's a self-taught front-end developer and prolific technical blogger, and she's on her way to break into tech after being a stay-at-home mom for her daughter for the past 4 years. We talked with Ayu about the impact of community, being a blogger while she's learning web development, and her recent experiences with burnout.
We start every episode of the podcast like we start every virtual coffee. We introduce ourselves with our name, where we're from, what we do, and a random check-in question. Today's random question is, if you could teleport to anywhere for 15 minutes, where would you go? We hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, I'm Bekah. I'm a front-end developer from a small town in Ohio, and if I could teleport to anywhere for 15 minutes, I can't decide if I want like a nice, beautiful location or if I want like really good food. I don't know. I don't have a really good specific place, but I would go somewhere that has a beautiful location that has good food and drink. So that's my answer.
Man, that just made me start thinking like, okay, well now I need to know the rules. Can you take things with you when you teleport back?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
Your universe.
That just changed my whole life. All right. Hi, I'm Dan. I am from Lakewood, Ohio. I do front-end development. If I could, so I was going to say something like somewhere maybe like the top of Mount Everest or somewhere where it's generally like not great to be, or it's really hard to get to, but it would be cool to just like be there for 15 minutes, kind of see everything, whatever. And by the time the 15 minutes are up, oxygen deprivation is probably setting in. I'm pretty cold, so I'm ready to go home. But you said food, which made me think, okay, well, can you take things with you? And then so maybe my answer is more like, Fort Knox.
Of a bank.
The vaults of a bank, right? Somewhere other secret. And now I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's like that secret room in the Library of Congress that was in, one of the National Treasure books, or National Treasure movies. Somewhere to like find a bunch of secrets or something, Anyway, I'm going to stick with my original answer officially as Mount Everest, and we can move on from there.
Hi, I'm Ayu, and I'm front-end developer from Indonesia originally, but based in Netherlands now. And if I can teleport myself for 15 minutes, I would split into two. I would visit my sister in Australia and my brother in New Zealand. That would be nice because we haven't seen each other for almost 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. I live too close to all of my family, so.
Yeah, my brother lives down the street. Literally have run to my parents' house and to my other brother's house, so
that's nice.
Not that far.
No, it's nice. I do it on purpose, but it's I could take 15 minutes and probably get away from all of them.
Yeah, I like the take of splitting. That was good.
Yeah. There's a lot of
welcome, Ayu. We are very happy to have you here with us. And for everyone who is listening, I just want to say a special thank you to Ayu because she's doing this super late. So we can make sure that the time zones matched up and we could get her on here. So we are very, very happy that this worked out.
Thank you for having me.
We always like to start with everyone's origin story, kind of how they got to this point where they're learning tech or in tech. So if you could just give us your background.
Well, I have a hobby as a photography, and it was starting from my photography hobby. And I did a freelancer for stock photography. And then I have my daughter. And then when she started to like 1.5 year, and it becomes like really fun because she start to be aware of the camera. So yeah, it's from there. And then I thought it would be nice if I have like a blog or something, like to have this personal documentation. So I was like browsing anything about WordPress or any blogging things, but then I bumped into FreeCodeCamp, Camp, and then I just tried it, and from there I just like it. I mean, like, there's no going back from there. It's like I want to know more and more and more. That's how I finally got into coding.
I love that. It's always so great to hear how people discover it like through other things that they've enjoyed doing, and then it just kind of becomes something that you want to do more and more of. So you mentioned Free Code Camp. Is that how long did you stay in Free Code Camp? Are you still doing Free Code Camp, or what are the resources that you found really helpful?
I actually not. I mean, like, for something that I learned for the first time, I'm more an audio visual person, so I like video more. And so a friend of mine, she was like, "Why don't you try Udemy?" So I start with Udemy, and I like it. I mean, like, when I see, like, I see, and then I code along with it, then it's just click. And but I still use FreeCodeCamp to get the certifications. Like, you don't have to finish all the modules, right? And you can just jump into, like, make all the projects that are needed, and finish a certification. I did the first certification of web responsive this design, I think. Yeah, it was it. And
Mhm.
yeah, since then I use more video from YouTube or something like that. But after I understand something, then I can use the other resources, like a blog, articles, or something like that. Yeah, but for the first time, it's always video.
I think that's great. And it's always interesting to hear the different approaches that people take, because I know for me, I can't watch the videos at first. I'm the opposite. So I need to read through
Yeah,
it and then I can watch the videos. Like, what is happening here? And that's just another reason why content creation in all forms can be so great, because everybody learns differently, and those different approaches, one works for me and one works for you, and something different works for somebody else. And so it's great to be able to have that out there.
yeah, true.
So I think that I may have known you longer than anybody else at Virtual Coffee,
Yeah, I think so too.
because I think I met you shortly after I started learning to code. I think we were both in the group Moms Can Code, and that's how we met, and
Yeah,
we were both learning to code with kids at home.
yeah,
And as we all know, that can be a challenge.
yeah.
Um, so what was it like what has it been like for you? Because you are also self-taught, you're pursuing this not in the confines of a boot camp or in a traditional school setting, and you have a kid at home too. So there's just a lot of different moving pieces there.
Yeah, I start to learn to code when my daughter was 2 years old, and I was self-taught. And then I think that I tweeted one time that how to juggling between the house chores and the kid, and also learning. And then I remember that one of who responds to my tweet was you, Bekah. So, and you said, "Why don't you join Mom and Code?" And I was like, "Oh, there's a Mom and Code. That's nice."
Mhm.
So yeah, I joined it. But yeah, with the time differences, I got more co-working with the European time zone moms, and we were like, mm, learning things that are different one to another. Like, uh, one is like doing the back end, and the other is the front end. But I mean, like, that's for the first time that I felt like I'm not alone. Like, I don't care what they're doing, but it's like I'm not learning by myself, and I we can have like all our kids, like, my kids were crying, and then the other were like, "Hey, stop it," or something like that. When yeah, it's not easy, and when she was 2, the time for me to learn was only on her nap time, and then I have
Mhm.
to wait until the whole house is sleeping, like around 10 at night, and then I start learning from that until 12, 1 in the morning.
Mm.
And yeah, it's getting easier now after she start with her elementary school, but it was like hell before. It's like I couldn't find any perfect time to learn, and I only had like 2 hours in total for the whole learning. So yeah. So I cannot imagine that you have four, Becca, and you still pull it out.
It was one of those things where you start to get used to being able to pivot pretty quickly. Like, oh, my kids are playing. I'm going to sit down at this computer. And then my mind would just like switch on. Like it knew it has to do it right in this second. But, I had a lot of help from my parents would watch the kids, or if I had a project to do. I remember one weekend my husband was out of town speaking at a conference. And so they took the kids. And it was the same thing like you were talking about. You're just trying to fit in this time. And so I stayed up so late and then woke up the next morning to try and get it done because you're trying to fit it in. But at the same time, you don't want to be forming like bad self-care habits because then that just leads to frustration and not wanting to do the thing that you want to do and then being mad that you don't want to do the thing that you want to do, right? So it's a whole, I don't know, thing to juggle, and it's not just about learning. It's about the growth and the changes that you're facing yourself, and it's a different role that you're taking on and trying to figure out how all these things work together. And so it can be really great, but certainly it can be really frustrating.
True, true. And especially that I don't have my family here, right? And my husband works, so I have to do everything by myself. So yeah, it's like, and people said that, oh, you have like lots of time because you only stay at home. And oh my God, I feel like I want to cry every time I hear that, because no, if we can have like more than 24 hours in a day, that would be perfect, you know, but we don't have it.
Yeah, I
So
always say that's like my biggest challenge. There's not 36 hours in a day.
yeah.
I imagine, at least Becca, knowing you, if you had 36 hours in a day, you would find a way to fill all of that and still,
And still not
and
enough.
still would just wish there was more. Yeah,
That is
just a guess. Just a
accurate.
guess. I, yeah, it's that switch off. I mean, my kids are in daycare. My wife and I both work, but during the pandemic, at the beginning, everything was shut down. Daycare was shut down. And so we were trying to do that. We are trying to juggle the kids and work, and Emily and I would switch off, watching the kids, and it's for me I struggled really hard with that context switching. Like Becky, you said, you got good at it. That was really very hard for me. Is like, and honestly, it was less some. It wasn't the sitting down at the computer part. It was the going back from computer to kids switch. That was a struggle for me. Um, you know, I just have so much respect for people who are parenting like full time and trying to learn or work like through all of this. I don't know how you do it, but it seems like you've been managing it.
I don't know. I still don't know how to do it then. I still don't know.
Yeah, that's the truth
Just,
too. I mean,
yeah.
people will ask like, how do you do it? Like, I don't know. You
No.
just do the things that you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
We talked about these frustrations that can be that you're facing, that we're all facing as we're learning these things and as we're parenting and going through a global pandemic together. And so I think sometimes really leaning into the things that encourage us or inspire us can be really useful. Have there been things or people along the way that you found have helped you continue the journey, or prevented you from giving up, and maybe some of those times that were really hard?
Yeah. I mean, like, I got burned out like so many times, right? And well, I've been active on Twitter, and that helps. I'm doing the 100 Codes of Challenge, and every time I said like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do," and then some people, like random people, like, "No, you can do this," and yeah, I got my spirit back, and yeah, but there are also times, especially when you are self-taught, right, and you don't have anybody to talk with. Like my husband, he doesn't know anything about web dev, so I cannot like, "Oh, I'm having trouble with this code," and he was like, what are you, what do you mean?" Right? So yeah, I mean, uh I got one time burnout, like that's pretty recently, that I think like, okay, I don't think that this is for me, and like I'm gonna just quit. And I was like, I got so surprised actually with that thoughts, because I never thought like, yeah, I got burnt out, but then I got like, I'm taking break and stuff, and I would be fine again. But this time's like different. I already took break. I mean, like, I already procrastinated, but still, like, I don't know like how to get myself together this time. Like, I got panic attack. It was like I learned, and then one time, like, we're having this project team, right? I'm trying with some VC members to have this group project about vanilla JavaScript. I mean, I got burnt out with React, with learning React before, and then I thought, oh, this is a good chance because it's vanilla JavaScript, so I can like take a step back and then do what I know. But because so far I learned by myself, doing everything by myself, when it's in a group, it's different story, right? You have somebody else to collaborate, and everybody has their own thoughts, like on how to approach something, which is not the approach that I probably would take. So it's kind of make me confused, and then I got like so freaked out, and I was like, what is happening? Where are we? And I don't know. My God, this is vanilla JavaScript, and I've done this like so many times, but how can I'm not following this? It's like, no, I think I cannot do it, and just feels like I want to stop. So I kind of pull myself a little bit off from everybody for like a week or so. But then I thought like, no, I need to talk to someone about this, right? So I start to talk to some of my friends, and they were all like, hey, we are all struggling. Like, you can do this. And then like one of them even say to me like, it's actually good that you have that thought of quitting because you don't understand things. Because if you have that thought, it means that you know so many things, so you get confused. It's not like you don't know anything. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I was like, okay. And that's, like, people don't want to share they're struggling, right? I don't know, maybe because they think that they don't want people to think they're weak, or I don't know, they have their own reasons. As for me, I feel more or less embarrassed, like I've been learning for so long, and then suddenly like I know nothing. And I just don't want to share that. But if I really want to do this, I want to step forward, then I think that I should share this struggle with at least somebody that I know that can hear me out, listen to me. And it was a good decision that I made, that I just share my struggles, and then people support me. I mean, like, if you don't share, nobody knows, and you just have to deal it yourself. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Certainly a journey. And you said some things in there that really struck me. And so you talked about this idea of community and isolation and sharing. And I think that, all of these things go together. And especially when we're in those tough moments where we tend to isolate from other people for those reasons that you spoke about. It's self-doubt and not thinking you can do it, and being embarrassed or afraid to share things. And I got a piece of advice pretty early on from someone, and they said, you don't share it for yourself, you share for other people, because other people who are going through the same things can recognize that, oh, I don't have to do this in isolation. I'm not the only one that feels this way. And then that's how community is formed. And I just always love that idea, because it can be so hard to share those things and to feel alone and to feel like, I don't know, you're not where you should be, right? Like, I it happens every week. I look at someone else and I'm like, oh wow, I I should be able to know what they're talking about, and I don't, right? And then it's like, oh, don't fall into the comparison trap, number one. But number two, like, embrace that community of people that's around you. And for me, you've been such a huge part of my community, and I don't know how you do it, but I feel like there are times when I am really, really struggling and I won't say anything. And then I get a DM from you checking on me, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I used here. This is what I needed. And so for me, that's been such an important piece of all of the things that have happened to me since I met you, because it's nice to have that connection and to know that there are people that are willing to care about you.
And I learned so much from your trauma stories, Becca. I mean, like, you've been so open, right? And you reach so many people with your story. And I mean, like, there are plenty of people that have the same feeling like how you feel, but they cannot let it out. So I thought, like, when I was struggling, I thought, like, okay, this is for me, for myself, I mean, like, and I also think that maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe there's also people out there that are having the struggle the same as I do. And if I open up, maybe those people can open up as well, and they could, like, feel a little bit relieved that, okay, I'm not the only one, and I can talk about it. Like, it's okay to not feel okay. So yeah. And thank you so much, because I mean, like, you taught me how to do that.
Well, now I'm gonna cry.
I you you talked about sharing your story, especially regarding the burnout, and the we'll post on the show notes, but you wrote a really great piece about it, what, a couple weeks ago or a week ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I I, uh, I just wanted to call it out because I loved reading it, and I love that you shared the struggle part, which is, I agree, is very important and very helpful for people. But I very much loved how you, a lot of the article is more about how to survive it, how to sort of recognize those feelings for what they are, and then how to sort of survive it and move on. And I just really appreciated it. I don't have, I
Thank
don't
you
really
so
have a
much.
question or a point, but I appreciated it. I mean, and a lot of it is just the allowing yourself to sort of be not okay or whatever, allowing yourself to take a break or step back. And I think it's so important. It
Yeah, I
was a
mean,
good.
self-care is really, really important. I mean, like, this is like one point in my learning journey where I really, really want to rush things. Like, I've been learning for 2 years, 2.5 years now, and I feel like, why am I so slow? So I'm trying to speed up a bit, but I think, like, because I start to understand things, so I really want to speed up again, but I didn't. I You can say that I ignore my limit where I should take a break, but I don't, because no, I want to be in this momentum, like, I want to keep it up. But no, this is my limit to take a break for a bit. But I didn't. So I think that's where most people also don't aware, where they really want to push and push and push forward, but they need to like, take a step back and just review things and just slowing down a bit. and they don't think about themselves, they can get burnout or can get frustration. So yeah, I hope that my experience can like reminding people as well that they need to, you know, take a step back once in a while.
Yeah, it's hard to do, or it can be.
Yeah,
It
true,
can be hard to do.
true.
At least in my personal experience.
Well, and I think too, when you take that step back, sometimes it's hard to get started again, right? There's this fear of losing momentum. Like, well, I was there, and you have to backtrack a little bit if you take a break. And so for a lot of people, I think I don't know exactly how to describe that feeling, whether it's being upset with themselves or having to go back, or being hard on yourself and thinking like, well, I should know this stuff, right? But it's okay to have to backtrack. It's okay to start from a different point that you ended at. But I think, like you're saying, there's just not that many people that are talking about those things. It is okay to take a break.
Yeah.
It is okay to be at a different point than someone else's going to be. And I don't know, this is going to sound silly, but I always used to compare myself to Kent C. Dodds, which is like not fair in any way, shape, or form, because he's been doing this a long time. But I'm like, he's got 4 kids. How come he can do all this stuff, right? Like, well, it's a little bit different. He wrote a newsletter for Mother's Day one year, I think, that talked about how much his wife does to support him and their kids. And it was like, oh, okay, I get this, right? Like, there's a lot of support for the things that he's doing, and he's been doing it a really long time. And it's not a reasonable comparison. I'm not really that reasonable, so it's not surprising that I would do that. But it's not even like, look at the people who are learning alongside you. It should never, if that's the motivation, then there's always going to be a point where you start to really get down on yourself, because everybody moves in different ways and in different paces. And sometimes you'll hit a plateau and it'll be really hard to get back up like the mountain. But then you'll gain some momentum, and then you'll go fast again, right? Or
Mhm.
maybe you're steady all the time. Everybody learns differently. Everybody can apply things in different ways and has different strengths. And I think we just fail to recognize that complexity, and we try and make it this really simple story of success, and we forget all of the you know things about being human that go along with that story.
Yeah, true. And I kind of forgot that. I mean, like, I was thinking I'm learning for 2.5 years, and I'm going so slow. But I forgot that uh, most of the days I only have 2 until 3 hours a day to learn, right? So I cannot compare myself to someone who can spend like more than 5 hours a day to learn. So yeah, I need to remind myself that y- you're going forward, only that
Yeah.
you have like less time than other people, so you cannot compare yourself to other people, but this is your time, right? I mean, I do the best way, I mean, like the best that I could within 2 and 3 hours a day, and that's actually good, like when I got exhausted I still can save some time to learn. So I think that I've been too hard to myself or something like that, and not appreciate myself. I don't know, but yeah, I'm trying to remind me myself about that. Like, yeah, you're doing good. You're doing okay. So
Yeah, I mean, you are. You're doing great. I can't. Uh, Trying to fit that learning in, and it's not just the hours, right? Is you were talking about how it's like a little bit during nap time and then late
yeah,
at night,
yeah.
um, which is probably not the best. Your brain's probably not in the best shape for learning at that point
No,
either, right? And so
yeah,
that's what I mean here. You're working with what you have, and the progress you've made seems, I don't know, from where I'm sitting, seems incredible. You've also have been just a prolific blogger like over the last however long, a couple years, and that's always been I mean, like that you. I don't know. I've read, I think probably most of everything you've written, but like it's very impressive. I was wondering how you approach like mixing that into your normal routine of like learning and stuff like that.
No, blogging is completely different thing. I mean, like I really have to make a time to write a blog, and English is not my native, right? So I'm not native English speaker. So I mean, I need like 3 to 4 hours to write 600 to 800 words. Can you imagine? So yeah, mostly like when I do blogging, if I have an idea, I will do the bullet points, and then from
Mm-hmm.
there, then I will try to, like talk about the points a little bit, like explanation, something like that. It helps me to write a little bit faster. And if
Yeah.
you see like my blog style, most of them always have like the bullet points. So yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I
I
mean,
think that's great for readers too.
yeah, I think it's a really effective way to write. Absolutely. That's how I usually write when I blog once a year. I do the same thing, uh, as opposed to yours once a week. Yeah, for me it's once a year maybe, but I, I've just I'm impressed, and especially on a limited time schedule like you have, that you have both the, I don't know, the dedication, the willpower, to do the blogging, because it's optional, right? Nobody's making you do it, or it's not like part of any of your, I don't know, certifications or anything like that, right? And so um you're just doing it on your own, and it's impressive. Like blogging is one of those things where I'm always like, yes, this month I'm going to get into the habit, and it never happens because it's nobody's making, nobody's asking me to write on my own website. So I'm always
No, I
impressed by
mean
people
like
who can.
the it's actually one of the things that get me into learning to code as well, because beside that I want to um, have my photo showcase. I also wanted to write about my experience, like living in another country and with a toddler and stuff. Um, but I finally didn't write anything until, thank you VC for having that monthly challenge of November where we have to write, right? and and it's actually, that's one of the things that can, mm, how do you say, uh make, how do you say that, accountable, make me accountable,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
hold me accountable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's when we do something together, right? And then like, yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, I already wrote this and I wrote this," and I was like, "Oh yeah, 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 I'm gonna do that." Like it's fun. And even after the monthly challenge done, I was still like in my I was like in my mood to write, and that's why I keep writing. But it's all
That's
started
awesome.
from PC.
As in November, we ran our first monthly challenge, and that was November is NaNoWriMo, so National Novel Writing Month. And the goal is to write 50,000 words, which is about the size of a novel. And so we said, hey, why don't we all work together and try and hit 50,000 words this month, writing and adding to our blogs.
Like
And
collectively.
yes, non individually.
Right.
And it turned out to be a lot of fun. It was kind of a last minute thing, and a lot of people participated. A lot of people were writing for the first time, and we didn't hit 50,000, but I think, we didn't really gear up either. It was like, okay, we're going to do this, but I really think this November we could hit 50,000 words, and it'll be a lot of fun. It was great to see everybody sharing and asking for feedback and getting like new and exciting ideas out there. Um but I also want to bring up, so you're writing across platforms, and not only that, but you're like recognized on all of the platforms that you're writing on. Like you're consistently one of the top bloggers, and you were recognized. Well, why don't you talk about that first before I get ahead of myself? I'm so excited about it. You know, writing on all of these different platforms and your choice to do that, and how are I want to say that I don't think you give yourself enough credit, right? Because everybody is giving you credit here and saying like Ayu is an amazing writer in all these ways, and um,
No,
you,
I mean,
you
like
can.
I write because I want to write, right? It was only for the sake of the monthly challenge at the beginning, and I don't have any, like a website or something like that. So I started with a platform called Hashnote, where I can have my own address, but I can use their platform. And then from there, I cross post it to dev, and then there's a code newbie, and then I cross post it as well to code newbie. I never think about gaining, like gaining readers or something like that, because I thought I even thought that no one will ever read my blog, and I write I write the blog posts purely only for myself. Like I want to have my notes out there because my notes are so cluttering, and I want to look back to it, and yeah, just I write for myself. That was the first thing. So I didn't even know, when you say Becca, like, oh, how do you do it? I have no idea. I mean, like, I never even thought that anyone would read. So
Well, like everyone is reading, and also you were one of the Code Newbie spotlights in April. Yeah,
yeah,
April. You were
April.
a Code Newbie spotlight. Talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that because that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like it was a nice surprise. And Code Newbie like sent me a DM on Twitter, and hey, do you want to be our April spotlight? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like, how come? you know, I have no idea. I mean, like it's a big surprise, and yeah. So that
Well,
was pretty much about it. I mean, like I didn't see that it's coming.
I mean, I just love that. I love the picture of you and your mom in that spotlight. It's just such a beautiful way to kind of end that there. And I don't know if you want to say anything about your mom, but I know that she was a big
No,
supporter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's actually kind of nice story, I think. Like my mom, we were really like best friend. I mean, like we were really close, and she suddenly got diagnosed with autoimmune, and it's actually pretty much maintainable if you have like a good medicine, right? And one of it is like steroid. But at that time, in where she lived, there's not enough steroid, so she got worse and worse and worse, like really fast. So like one day, and she didn't want to receive my call for like a couple of weeks because she was like so bad condition, and she didn't want to say anything. But one time, like, finally she received my phone call, and then I told her, like, we talk a lot. We talk like almost 2 hours at that day. And I told her, like, hey, I want to participate in this photography challenge. And if I won, I said, then I would be like in this magazine in Germany, I said. And they would pick up like 20 pictures, and the top winner would be like going into the magazine in Germany. And she was like, "Oh, you should make me as your model, like, and I think that you would win with my photo on it, and I really want to see you on the magazine." I was like, Yeah, right. And then like I didn't even get into the challenge of the photography, and like not long after that, it's like a week or 2 weeks, something like that. And I got a phone call from my aunt, and she said like, I think that you should go back, all of you, like me and my siblings, you all should go back because like she's getting worse. And we're like, oh, okay. So we flew, right? We flew there, and after I was there 5 days later, she passed away. So I didn't get into the magazine, of course, because I didn't uh, participate in the photography challenge. And with this code newbie, and suddenly, no, after the my profile got into code newbie, and then I remembered this, like this conversation, like when she said, I want to see you on that magazine. And this time, like, it's not a magazine, but I mean, like, I'm on an article, and that's me there. And that's why I took my mom picture there, because like, hey mom, is like, you're there now, like, it's not on the photography thing that we talk about, but you're there on my on an article about me. So yeah, I hope that she liked it.
It's such a beautiful story, and it's so nice to hear you share it and to talk about your mom and that support and to see how it just all kind of come around and you know, yeah, I just just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I just hope that she's proud of me. I mean, like, yeah.
I mean, Ayu, you're doing so much. I mean, you're taking care of your daughter, you're learning, you're bringing up, helping so much with the community and being such a great person to have in our community and to have your support and all of the things that you share and you've touched so many lives, so I feel like she most definitely is proud of you.
Thank you so much, and I'm very very grateful to find virtual coffee. To be honest, and like, thank you, Becca, Dan, and Kirk, and Sarah, and yeah, everybody in VC, like, very very supportive and very very loving. I mean, like, this is the first time that I feel like I'm not alone, not only in the journey of learning, like, but VC is more like a family to me. And even though we haven't met in real life, but I feel like I'm so close to everyone, as if like, yeah, I've met you all for 1,000 years. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my experience too. I always struggled with finding friends and fitting in and kind of understanding like my place in things. And it's just been really nice to be able to share that with other people and for other people to accept me where I'm at in that place and to be able to talk about things more openly because I don't know if you knew me 5 years ago, I'm a much different person than I was. And before, I never would have shared any of that. I just would have like bottled it all up. But it's nice to have a community that you feel safe and supported with, and to be able to talk about those things. Like, wow, I'm just really, really having a tough day today, and just to even just somebody giving me a heart emoji is like sometimes that's all I need. I just need someone to acknowledge that I am having a hard day. Um, and it's just a really special place. I haven't found anything else like that.
True, true. I feel the same. I mean, like, when was I find virtual coffee? It was from your tweet, right, Becca? And I was like, hey, I'm having this virtual coffee, and you post the Slack link, and I did join the Slack, but I wasn't say anything at all. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm still learning, and all people here are already developer. Like, how can I didn't even dare to say hi. I was like, oh my God, who am I? But yeah, so I finally, after, I don't know, a couple of months, I think, and finally I say hi, introduce myself in the Slack, and then I went to the meeting for the first time, and I was like, no, everybody's like so nice, and everybody's like maybe already have more than 10 years experience, but they're still like so humble and so caring, and I was like, yes, I think I know that I'm in the right place. Like in a heartbeat, I just know that yeah, this is my community. Like it's it's nice. It's always nice to be in VC, and like you can see me almost every day on Slack. Oh, I'm so sorry for that, but I just cannot help it.
Oh, we're certainly glad you are here in Slack and and at the meetings. It's I don't know. It's always good to see you there.
Oh.
You,
One time, like, I usually like do co-work at nights, right? Because I learn at nights, and most of the time, like, I cannot really talk because my husband and my daughter's super sensitive to voices. But for today, I already told my husband, like, don't get bothered because I'm gonna talk loud, and yeah. So usually in the co-working channel, like, people don't really hear my voice because I always typing. Like, people say something, I ask, wait, I'll type, right? And then one time, Glenn, he was like, I will give $10 to anybody who can make her talk because I never hear her voice.
that's amazing.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Well, now we can just send him this podcast episode, right?
That's
Yeah,
right. Who
right?
gets the $10?
Oh yeah,
Great.
who gets that? We'll split it.
Split it.
I guess you've given a lot of advice throughout this podcast and through all the vlogs that you've written. So I have, I guess, two more questions for you. And the first would be, what has been your favorite blog post to write, if you have one? And then the second question would be, if you had advice to give to somebody in your shoes, what would that advice be?
My favorite post so far is the last one, to be honest. Is the massive burnout ones. When I that's the fastest one that I wrote, because it's really coming from, like, I don't really filter it. It's just coming
Yeah.
out. And yeah, that one is my favorite blog post. And if I have uh, what did you say again?
If you had one piece of advice to give to
Um,
someone in your shoes, what would it be?
well, if you're a self learner, like, mm, try to find a community, because it really really helps you. I mean, like, it helps me a lot. I get more confident, and I have people to support me, and when I also can support someone, right? And it makes you feel like you're not alone, but also valuable for somebody else. And if you want to start your blog, don't think twice. Just write it, and don't think that maybe nobody will read it, or maybe it's not good. No, just write it. I mean, like, it's you write it for yourself. That's the first thing that you only have to think, like, write it for yourself, and then the rest will come.
Yeah. That's so great. Well, I thank you so much for being here with us today on the podcast, but for being such a great part of the community. It's been so wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Virtual Coffee Podcast. This episode was produced by Dan Ott and Bekah Weigel and edited by Dan Ott. If you have questions or comments, you can hit us up on Twitter at virtualcoffeeio or you can email us at podcast@virtualcoffee.io. You can find the show notes, plus you can sign up for our newsletter to find out what Virtual Coffee's been up to on our website at virtualcoffee.io.
Please subscribe to our podcast and be sure to leave us a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.